This photo was taken in 2003 in a house in Cleveland that looks like an ordinary white 3-story house. You might think that there is nothing unusual going on here. A young man and a girl pose in front of the camera, smile and hug, and the photographer skillfully captures this happy moment. None of the people in the picture except one even realizes that horrific things are happening right behind that white door. At this very moment there is a captive there, chained to the bed, her eyes filled with fear and helplessness. This is the story of 3 destinies who are intertwined due to terrible events, and whose lives ultimately undergo irreversible changes. Michelle Knight was raised by her mother and grandmother after her father was away from them for a long time. She was born on April 23, 1981 in Naples, Florida. Michelle was an unwanted child who finally began to care for her 2 sisters and 2 more brothers. Their family was very poor. They could not even afford food and there was practically no furniture in their house, which forced them to sit on the floor. Since there was no stove, the food was cooked on a radiator. It took almost 4 hours to create a simple hot dog. Michelle didn't know where her life would take her, but she was determined. Sometimes she had to rummage through the trash can to find something warm. One day she found a blanket lying on something on the porch and took it for herself. Michelle loved to walk with this blanket, and would sit under the bridge where cars were passing. Michelle felt a little better and decided that her life would soon get better. Since her classmates also teased her and did not like her, the girl often skipped school. Michelle went to church and prayed instead of studying. The girl's father took her away, reprimanded her and sent her back to school after a parishioner noticed her in church one day. However, a year later, everything changed. Michelle began a relationship with a boy she met at school, and in 2000, at the age of 18, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son whom she named Joey. Even though she didn't have much money, she managed to take care of her son and spend all her free time with him. She had a desire to be a better mother and surpass her own mother. However, in the spring of 2002, her mother's drunken boyfriend broke Joey's knee. When social services found out about what happened, the boy was eventually taken away and placed in a foster family. Michelle often tried to contact the guardianship authorities because she was very worried about this, but no one answered or even called her back. One day she was given the opportunity to bring her son home. On August 23, 2002, Michelle had an appointment with the guardianship staff, but the girl never appeared and did not return home. The mother and grandmother became concerned and called the police. But the police assumed that Michelle probably ran away because she couldn't come to terms with the fact that her son was taken. Michelle Knight's mother and grandmother were right when they said that she couldn't just up and disappear. That day, Michelle tried to find the building where she was supposed to talk with the guardianship authorities. But since this place was unfamiliar to her, she got lost. The girl was contacted by a man whom she recognized as Ariel Castro, the father of her friend. He offered to help and said that he could take her in his car, and she agreed because she knew him and did not think that he was a threat. During the trip, they were talking about something when Ariel suddenly said that he needed to return home to pick up his daughter. He also wanted to show Michelle the puppies and promised to give her one, which she happily accepted since she had long dreamed of a small puppy. When they entered the house, the man led Michelle straight to the top of the bedroom, saying that there were puppies there. However, as soon as they crossed the threshold of the bedroom, Ariel's behavior changed dramatically. He was no longer kind and accommodating. The man then closed the door and threw Michelle to the floor. Throughout the entire process he hit the girl on the head, which is why Michelle began to sob and scream. He took the photo of Joey and tore it up in front of her, adding, "You'll never leave here. You'll never see him." Then he put a sock in her mouth to stop her from screaming. When Ariel returned, he untied Michelle and took her to the basement where he abused her again. At some point, someone knocked on the door of the house. The man gagged Michelle with a rag, put a motorcycle helmet on her, and in this state chained her to a beam. Michelle sat there for several more days, crying and begging to be let go. Ariel abused Michelle and left her for 3 whole days. During this time, Michelle was deprived of food and water and had no way to escape. She promised not to tell anyone anything if he let her go. However, this insolence only angered the kidnapper, who then beat the girl and took her upstairs, declaring that now it was her bedroom. It was dirty, and she had to sleep on a dirty old mattress emitting an unpleasant smell. The man blocked the window with a door and other devices, making it impossible for Michelle to escape, and her movements were limited by an iron chain that covered her arms and stomach, and the other end was attached to the radiator. He visited Michelle every day, raped her and beat her. However, in the end, he took the TV into the girl's bedroom and gave her the opportunity to watch as much as she wanted, with the only caveat that she was not allowed to watch TV shows with dark-skinned characters as he hated them. Months passed and no one could find the girl. The fact that they did not talk about her on television and that her photograph did not hang on street poles made the man disgusted with his captive. He often visited her to assure her that no one needed her anymore, and that everything what she has left is him. After some time, Ariel opened up to her. He told Michelle that he had been abused as a child. He also explained that he had a wife, but she left him and took the children with her. Perhaps that's why he hated her so much. Michelle did her best to understand him, believing that if she expressed her regret, he could take pity on her and let her go. However, with Ariel it was not so simple. One day the man forgot to lock the door and left for work. Michelle was happy and thought that soon her torment would end. But at the front door she came across Ariel. It turns out the man was just checking on her, and he liked to mock his victim. For this he severely beat Michelle. A year passed, a year of violence and fear during which Ariel received guests in his house. Children came to him, friends came to him, and he was a member of a musical group. However, no one saw the tired girl or heard her screams. Since Ariel carefully considered all the options, he ordered the guests not to go up to the attic where the girl was locked, and if Michelle tried to scream, he turned on loud music so that no one would hear her. In the end, Ariel became bored, and since he had been planning the kidnapping of another girl for a long time, he decided to take this step. 16-year-old Amanda Berry lived in Cleveland with her mother and older sister, who was a mother of two. Amanda aspired to be the first person in her family to go to college and had a passion for fashion. The girl got a job at Burger King because she planned to pay for her own education. The day before her 18th birthday, on the morning of April 21, 2003, Amanda left for work and her mother kissed her and wished her all the best. In general, Amanda had the opportunity to ask for a day off from work to spend it on preparing for her birthday, but she decided not to. However, literally after half a working day she was released anyway. She informed her relatives about this and had to return home. Hours passed but she never came home. Amanda also did not answer calls or read any messages. As a result, the girl's mother and sister became worried. The girl's family called the police. But the search was postponed because they believed that Amanda was not in danger, and the police suggested that she may have simply run away from home. However, after reading her biography, the police realized that they were mistaken because Amanda was always sociable and cheerful. She always answered her relatives and warned them about her plans. So they immediately began searching. Everyone in Cleveland was looking for the girl, and there were flyers with her photo on every pole. However, after a week and even a month, the girl was nowhere to be found. Amanda was walking home from work, and the house was only 10 minutes away. The girl saw a familiar man driving behind her in a car. He stopped in front of Amanda and offered to take her home. This time the girl recognized the man as the father of her school friend. Ariel also invited her to come to him and see his daughter Angie. She of course agreed since she had not spoken to Angie for a long time. When they arrived at the white 3-story house, Ariel immediately told the girl that Angie was still in the shower and that the door to the bathroom was closed. He asked her to wait. He then called Amanda upstairs to the bedroom and told her that there was a surprise waiting for her at the door. When the girl turned the knob, the door opened and she saw a dirty mattress on which a naked woman was dozing. Amanda quickly realized that if she did not try to escape, she would suffer the same fate. However, Ariel got ahead of her by grabbing Amanda by the hand and dragging her into the opposite dark room where he ordered her to remain silent. He later took her to the basement where he taped her arms and legs and put a motorcycle helmet on her head. He also told Amanda to sit quietly so that she could return home sooner. However, Ariel naturally broke his word, saying that Amanda would stay in the house for a very long time. A few days later he brought the girl upstairs and, like Michelle, told her that now she would live in the bedroom. It was then that she found out that the woman who had disappeared a year ago lived in this bedroom. Amanda burst into tears, frightened and realizing that she would suffer the same fate as Michelle. Since she understood that Michelle had not managed to escape the whole time, the girls were not allowed to talk. But Michelle tried to console Amanda by telling her what if they will work together they will be able to outsmart the kidnapper. Of course this didn't happen because Ariel was always one step ahead. He started visiting Amanda every day and liked that she was more submissive and quiet. He brought a TV into her room and asked if she needed anything else. But all Amanda asked for was a book, coloring book and diary, in which she later detailed every day of her imprisonment, hoping that the authorities would find her notes. One day while watching TV, Amanda saw her desperate mother begging people to help in the search and asking the kidnapper to bring her daughter home. A local fortune teller and her mother participated in a program where the fortune teller said that Amanda was already dead and her body would not be found. The girl saw her disappointed mother burst into tears and she wanted to scream, "I'm here, I'm alive." But no one would hear her. A week after Amanda's disappearance, Ariel called the girl's mother from her cell phone and assured her that Amanda was fine, saying that she lived with a man and did not need to be disturbed. Unfortunately, in 2003, it was impossible to trace the source of a phone call. Instead, police could only trace streets and neighborhoods, so the police went to the location and stayed there for about a week, hoping to spot something suspicious. However, this did not happen and Ariel Castro kidnapped the girl again. It turned out that the girl was 14 years old. In May 2004, Gina De Jesus was walking home from school with her friend Angie. Since it was Friday before the weekend, Gina wanted Angie to stay the night, but Angie called her mother, and she refused to let her. As in the case of Michelle and Amanda, the girls said goodbye. Gina lent her friend money for the bus, but she chose to walk home. But the girl never made it home. On the way, Angie's father drove up to her and asked if she had seen his daughter. Gina explained that they had just said goodbye and that she gave her money to Angie so that she could go home on the bus, and she decided to walk. After hearing this, Ariel offered to take her home and the girl agreed. Ariel took control of the girl's fate and made all decisions himself. He locked her in the basement. Michelle and Amanda saw on the news that another girl had disappeared, but they did not know that it was Gina. For a whole month she lived in the basement of the house, dirty and hungry. Realizing that he could not keep Gina there for too long, he took the girl to Michelle's room and told her that they would live together. Every time Ariel visited them, he chained one girl with a radiator chain so that she would not could have attacked him and raped the other. And when guests came, he sent his captives to the basement and told them to sit quietly. If they screamed or tried to run away, he beat them and fed them once a day as punishment. One day a neighbor heard the screams of women from this house, but they quickly stopped. Then the man called the police. But they did not check Ariel's house because they believed that there could be a family dispute there, and the screams were heard only once. The girls only went to the shower once a week to wash themselves, and he gave them a small piece of soap. After 3 whole years, Amanda suddenly started vomiting. It turned out that the girl became pregnant from Ariel, and when Ariel found out about this, he allowed her to keep the child. The birth was supposed to begin in December, and since Michelle was the eldest, she had to give birth to a child. On Christmas Day, December 25, 2006, a man brought out an inflatable children's pool and announced that Amanda would give birth in it. The birth was extremely difficult. The girls begged Ariel to call for help, but he refused to listen. Michelle did everything in her power to ease Amanda's suffering, but the baby was born blue and not breathing. She was a little girl born in a house of horror and torture. Fortunately, the child began to breathe after Michelle gave the girl artificial respiration. Michelle Knight had the strongest spirit of all the girls. She took all of Ariel's blows and tried to protect the other two. She took the brunt of the beatings. Ariel treated Gina the best, since she was the youngest. Over the years he dressed her better and brought her more food. The girl that Amanda gave birth to, Jocelyn, grew up and began to ask questions about why her mother and aunt could not leave the house and wore chains. Ariel called these pieces of iron bracelets. He always had an explanation for his behavior. Eventually the man began to take Jocelyn for walks and took him to church. Ariel also introduced Amanda's daughter to his parents, explaining that the girl was born out of wedlock from his ex-wife. When Jocelyn was 6 years old, Ariel decided to free the captives from their chains so that the girl would not ask unnecessary questions. They could already gather at one table, and it seemed to him that they were his family. In general, Ariel loved Jocelyn, often spoiled him and spent his free time with her. Thus they endured horror and suffering for 10 whole years, eagerly awaiting the dawn of each day in the hope of salvation. Amanda tried to teach Jocelyn to read and write. She tried to pretend that everything was fine and explained basic things to her daughter. Jocelyn did not feel like a prisoner and had no idea what her mother was going through. In April 2013, Ariel told the captives that he had lost his job and now he would have to save on food. As it became increasingly difficult for the man to support 3 women and a child, They lived on crackers and chips for a month before then on May 6, 2013 a miracle happened. Jocelyn noticed that her father's car had disappeared. Apparently Ariel had left. This was the first time he left the house, leaving Amanda's door unlocked. The girl took the chance, but she was overcome with fear because she didn't know what if he was checking them again. But still she made up her mind, so she ran to the entrance door and began screaming with all her might. Amanda also stuck her hand through the crack and asked for help. The neighbors heard her screams and quickly ran up. When Amanda said her name, they immediately realized who she was. Indeed, they had long considered her dead. The neighbor broke part of the door, which is why the girl and her child ran away from the house. The girl asked for a phone and dialed 911. A few moments later, police cars surrounded the house of Ariel Castro. Furious police found 2 more girls inside. Happy that the policeman saved her, Michelle threw herself into his arms and sobbed, saying that it was a miracle. All 3 girls survived and were found. They were taken to the hospital. 2 days later, Amanda and Gina were released to return home to their families. Michelle was released on the 4th day. After Ariel Castro was detained and found in a local diner, he said that he knew that the captives had escaped. He later explained that he released the girls because he could no longer carry such a load on himself. But he also noted that he had no regrets. During the trial, Ariel behaved with restraint and expressed only regret about the fact that he was detained. Ariel tried to plead the psychological trauma he suffered from being raped and beaten as a child. The only reason he did not receive the death penalty was because he admitted his guilt. In August 2013, he was sentenced to 1,000 years in prison, but he did not serve his entire life sentence. Ariel turned out to be weaker than his captives, and a month later he hanged himself in his cell. The girls gradually began to adapt to normal life. Amanda is raising her daughter, and Michelle's condition was very serious when she was found, but now she is feeling better. Gina prefers not to disclose personal information to the media. The girls do not keep in touch but sincerely wish each other a good future and a speedy recovery. It is hard to understand what kind of torment and pain these girls experienced over so many years of being captive of Ariel. Friends, write your opinion in the comments, and also subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. Thank you all.